But as someone that hasn't been gone from Duke for too long, I hope you'll believe me when I say this, the real world is a different place. The real world is a great place. It's a place where you can learn a lot, where you can see a lot, and where you can do a lot. But it's a place where there are many, many demands on your time. When there's lots to do and there isn't a culture of giving in a way that makes it easy. And so it can be easy to let go of and forget how much service means to us. We can forget about the causes that we cared about on campus. We can forget about the burdens that we bore to make the world a better place. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can make a promise to ourselves to remember that service is a core part of who we are. And it's a core part of our faith and of our religious identity. And so, with the attention that we take to coming to Jumu'ah, to praying, to fasting, we should think about service as another way to get closer to Allah and to be good to our fellow human beings. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "The best people are those who are most beneficial to other people." We should use that as our guide stone. And so originally I wanted to talk to you today about examples of people that I thought were inspirational, about Muslims that went out in their communities and made a difference on a day-to-day basis. And I was like, you know what, how do I go do this? How is the best way to find out about these people that I don't interact with? And so I went to Google, like everyone does. And I was pleased to see there's actually a blog it's Muslim Heroes. And it just tracks every day. They put up a profile of another Muslim that's done something good. And mashallah, they're up to 180 now. You know, I don't know when they started, but 180 barely begins to scratch the surface of the number of Muslims in this country and in this world that are doing good things. You know, in this room already, I see 50 people that are doing it. And so instead of, pulling a story from the internet and sharing it with you, I'd like to share a story from personal experience. It's not from here in the US, but it's one that I think is compelling because this person is a hero of mine. I came to Duke, and like any good Pakistani kid, I came to Duke as pre-med. I wanted to go to medical school. I wanted to be the apple of my parents' eye and be a doctor. And so while I was here, I trained to be an EMT. And I thought it would be fun. You be on an ambulance, you go after emergencies, you save lives. That's exciting, right? As it turns out, the reality on campus is that emergencies aren't really all that urgent. A sprained ankle in Wilson, somebody that fell down the stairs in Kroll, not exactly what I was looking for. Still important. I mean, if your ankle hurts, it hurts, but not really saving the world. And so I decided to take it a step further and bit off more than I could chew. And I went to Pakistan to work on ambulances in the city of Karachi. Karachi is special. It's a city of 17 million people, beautiful people, people that care, but also a city of violence and a city of tension. And just the most gruesome things that you'll see. I saw more things there on my first day on the job than I did in 2 semesters as an EMT here at Duke, and more than a lot of people see in a lifetime. I worked with an organization called the Zaidi Foundation. They run the single largest volunteer ambulance service in the world. But that's not all they do. They run homeless shelter, they run orphanages, they run homes for women that are victims of abuse. So all sorts of things. But it all started with a guy named Abdullah Zaidi. This guy migrated from India to Pakistan in 1947. And in 1951, when his mother passed away of illness, he began to think. He's like, I saw how much my mother suffered. How many people are out there that are suffering because they don't have access to the kind of care that they need? And so what he did was he didn't have any skills. He wasn't an educated man, and so he began to collect money. He begged, but not for himself. He begged for others, and he began to raise money. And eventually he raised enough money to buy a small location, and out of that he made a dispensary. And he worked with local doctors and local pharmacies, and he got medicines. And he made them available very inexpensively for people that needed them. But such was this man's dedication that he would sleep on the sidewalk outside his dispensary, because what if somebody needed medicine at midnight, or at 2 a.m., or at 4 a.m.? He didn't have hours of operation. He was always working in service of humanity. And that's what he continues to do in his life now. He runs this vast operation. They have tons of resources, lots of money. They have hundreds and hundreds of ambulances and thousands upon thousands of rupees in their coffers. And yet he lives simply. When I was working with the Zaidi Foundation, I met him. And this man wears a very simple traditional garb, doesn't speak English. He doesn't even speak Urdu. He speaks his native tongue, his regional dialect, because his service and his way of communication is through his actions. And so Abdullah Zaidi inspired me because of everything that he gave up. He lives in a small place, but he oversees these giant network of operations where his sole purpose is to help others. And when you ask him, Mr. Zaidi, why do you do this? He goes, my religion is humanity. And in my mind, he's saying that my religion is Islam, because Islam is humanity. But you don't need to look to just Abdullah Zaidi. As I mentioned to you, there's plenty of examples right here in the US. There's plenty of examples in this room of people that live their lives that way. But I think the key thing for me is that it's not good enough for just one of us to go out there and do it. It's not good enough for us to do it on a one-off basis. We need to institutionalize a culture of service into our actions. The Jesuits are a Catholic order, and they're famous around the world for their commitment to service and to making the world a better place. Anytime you see a label that says the Jesuits on there, you know that they're out there, they're working to make the world a better place. And so inshallah, one day, I'd like to see that be the association for Islam that says, oh, this is a place where Muslims congregate. This must be a place where good happens for the community. And so I invite you, every one man, one woman PR firm in this room to take on a campaign. Islam equals service. But in this campaign, there are no flyers, there are no advertisements, there is only action. Lots and lots of action. Because doing good isn't about doing an activity. Doing good is about a way of living. And through the way we live our lives, I'd like for the world to know what we stand for. Now, that doesn't mean you need to give up your worldly possessions. It doesn't mean you need to be Abdullah Zaidi and sleep on the sidewalk to run a dispensary. All you need to do is make doing good and caring for others a key part of who you are and about how you live your lives. It's the same thing that I'm trying to do every day on a day-to-day basis. How can I be a better person? How can I be a better Muslim? By putting myself in service of others. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give away money, although please by all means do. There's tremendous need, there's tremendous charities that could benefit from your dollars. But there's so much more that you could do, and that's why I'm here, because I hope that together we can inspire each other to actually do more than just give money. We can give of our time. So we can actually volunteer at a shelter. We can volunteer at a mentorship organization. Or even more simply, we can take the time out to treat other people with dignity. So when you're on your way home from work or after a night out and you're in a cab, take a moment to talk to your taxi driver. That guy drives people around all day, and yet if you talk to him, you might be the only conversation that he has that day. Treat him with dignity, treat him with respect. If somebody treats you well, if somebody is serving you at a restaurant, treat them as a human being. Find out about them, take an interest in their lives, because that's what being good is. That's what being Muslim is. It's the example that our Prophet set for us. You should give of your knowledge. We're all very blessed. We sit at Duke where we're surrounded by knowledge, we're surrounded by intelligent people. When you go out and you go into other communities and you see people thirsting for knowledge, or you see people struggling with a concept that you think is easy, be patient. Teach them, help them, mentor them. Again, it's a way of giving wealth to the needy. You have the wealth of knowledge, they have need for knowledge. Perfect match. You can give of your happiness. Happiness is an incredible treasure that Allah has bestowed upon us. The more we have, the more we share. The more we share, the more we get back. It's one of those things where, a simple smile or a kind word can go a long way to making a Muslim or a non-Muslim's day. You should do that. And then you can give of your earnings. Every day, if you take out 50 cents and you give it to the Red Cross, at the end of the year, you've given $180 for 50 cents a day, less than a cup of coffee. You put those together one by one, and eventually it adds up. So similarly with our actions, every little thing that we do eventually becomes a culture and becomes the way that we live our lives. In addition to those things, absolutely continue with the volunteerism that you do. Continue to work with the organizations that you're working with. Work at a local charity or a homeless shelter. Raise awareness about a cause that you care about, that you're passionate about. Protect the planet. All of these things are important. All of these things come down to being a good Muslim. All of these things come down to being a good person. So I'd like to close with a prayer. I'd like to paraphrase the ayah that I just quoted. O Allah, give us the opportunity to be among the righteous. Strengthen our faith in you, the last day, the angels in the scripture, and the prophets. Empower us to give our wealth, money, time, knowledge, and otherwise, for love of you, to kinsfolk, to orphans, to the needy, and to those who ask. Give us the strength to do these and observe worship and pay zakat. With your help, inshallah, we will be among the sincere, the God-fearing. Allahumma aghfir lil muslimina wal muslimat wal mu'minina wal mu'minat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat إنك سميع مجيب الدعوات.